All right there, Revenants. Welcome back to Code Vein. And today, or this episode, whatever, we're going to be looking at the master equation for physical attacks, whether it be a regular gift attack, whether it be a weapon attack, or so on and so forth. How do all of these weapon buffs here in this kind of table operate for weapons when you actually slap an enemy just like this, when you hit them in that kind of a fashion, or if you use a gift in this kind of a fashion to actually slap the enemy pretty hard. How do you go about finding all of those multipliers to make sure that you get the most out of the interactions from the blood codes, from the weapons, from the gifts, and how your passives stack up? So what we're going to be running is we're going to be running Warrior as our test dummy here. Since we're right at exactly 1,000, you can see all the interactions very, 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 very accurately and very well. And we're an Azure Greatsword +3 at the moment with an S rating on our strength, because the Azure Greatsword only scales on strength. So we will keep it this way, so it's at least pretty straightforward and simple to understand for people like me, and maybe you're one of those as well. Okay, so we'll go ahead and I guess we'll hit you with the big kahuna here at the outset. So if you don't want to watch anything, you can just see this capture here, and up here at the top of the Word doc, we've got the master equation here. So I'll be talking about scaling in a different video once Nirvana is unlocked for me, but at the moment, scaling is a very deep topic, but as you can see, it's at the very base root of the entire physical damage setup here. And if you change scaling stats, you're affecting, you can see the big black bracket here, you're affecting the entire bracket hugely. You're increasing your damage by a huge, massive amount, because it's a multiplicative value down here at the very, very end. Or you want something that's down here at the very, very at the very, very core beginning of the equation, or you want something down here at the end like Swift Destruction or Opportunism. These are two really, 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 really good passives to have. Opportunism is a little bit of a kind of conundrum, because of the fact that you need at least a status ailment on the enemy, and so you have to worry about that on your own. But so how it goes is you have the physical damage of the card, then you multiply that by 1 plus whatever the scaling stats are. Typically these scaling values go in terms of in increments of a 1/4%, or a 1/9 of a percent, or I believe it's a 1/16 of a percent. There's a couple of different scaling levels, depending on the blood code, depending on the weapon, depending on how many levels above the requirement level you are, so on and so forth. And so that's kind of a really, really deep topic that I haven't fully cracked yet, so I can explain it to anyone. But that's my understanding so far. And then you multiply by the weapon mastery. So physical and scaling and the mastery of the weapon, like one-handed weapon mastery and so on and so forth, bayonet mastery, they are your core scaling values, your core physical damage value that you see on the card. These are displayed at all times. As soon as you change one of your scaling values, your weapon physical damage will change by a certain percentage, one way or another. And same with mastery values. These are adjusted and changed as soon as you select one of them from the fourth or fifth menu item over. Then you take that physical value and you multiply it by 1 plus the adrenaline value, the multiplier for adrenaline, and then you add a value for flashing Fang. Now Flashing Fang, since this is a doubling of your damage, you simply just add a 1 here. Adrenaline is a 10% increase to your value, and you put a 0.1 here, 0.1, tenth of a value. Then you take that set of additions and you multiply it by 1 plus the value for Overdrive, plus the value for Offensive Order, plus Louis' Overdrive that he gives to you as well. So Louis' Overdrive and your Overdrive are exactly the same value. They're 0.25. And so when you add those all up, you get 1.5 as a multiplier. Against something like Flashing Fang and Adrenaline. So that's really good because they start multiplying here as you go across the parentheses here, but they add when they're in their own same respective parenthesis. And so then you're adding offensive order to this as well. So the maximum value you can get in this parenthesis set here is 1.5 plus 0.2 for offensive order. So you can have a value here of 1.7 total, which is really, really nice. In this parenthesis here, you can have a max of 2.1, which is very nice. So you have 2.1 times 1.7, which are pretty good multipliers. But again, you have to have the stats and everything and the gifts available to actually use all these. So then you take those three sets of parentheses, the physical parenthesis, the adrenaline flashing fang parenthesis, and the overdrive parenthesis, and you multiply it by reckless abandon or fatal surge. Either one. I just put them here as a division, so it's either one goes here. Reckless abandon is a 1.5, fatal surge is a 2. And then you multiply it by final journey. Now final journey is not exactly a 1.5, it's a little bit higher, it's a 1.5008, so we would put that here. And it's important to maintain that 008 on it because Code Vein actually takes that into account all the way out to that level of accuracy, and then it truncates for the game damage. So it's kind of weird how it rounds, but Code Vein has a big problem with rounding errors. So if you're trying to find things on your own, you're probably going to be off by 2, 3, 4, 10 damage here and there. It's not because you're not doing the calculations correctly, it's just because Code Vein rounds kind of however it wishes. Then after those multipliers, we get into the addition sets where we add in to all of these multipliers, we add in Bridge to Glory, we add in Survival Instinct, and we add Blow of Madness, and then we add Sacrificial Edge. Now this is really important to understand here, this Survival Instinct, Bridge to Glory, Final Journey kind of combination here, because Survival Instinct, let's talk about Bridge first. So Bridge, as you know, it takes half of your light value and it adds it to your the physical, as you can see here. But the problem is when you have Survival Instinct, since Survival Instinct increases your light value 200 and your weapon value 250, you get half of that 200 added, so you get another 100 added to your Bridge to Glory, but then you get another 250 added, so it actually increases your weapon damage 350 just if Bridge to Glory is active because of Survival Instinct. So it's not just the increase in damage just because of the weapon damage up, but it's also the interaction between light value and weapon value being paired into Bridge to Glory being added to your physical damage. So pretty cool. And then also you get some crazy stat buffs out of Final Journey because this also increases your weapon damage by 50%. So the 1.5, that's 5008, that's where that's coming from. But then it also increases your light value 50%. So then what happens is you get your 50% increase to light value, which then adds up here into Bridge to Glory, which then increases your damage overall. So Final Journey and Bridge together with Survival Instinct, these three kind of double dip in a sense because they get light value increases and they get weapon damage increases as well. So very good to have these three together unless you can find a higher multiplier from these other positions around here. And then Blow of Madness, that is a flat 400. that we increase, and Sacrificial Edge is a flat 800. There's no way to change those or increase those unless you get into gifting. Gifting your weapons with EOS chromes. I don't recommend that because when you I feel like it's bugged in a certain way, because as you increase the amount of multipliers, your multipliers actually go down in value, and you actually end up with a lesser amount of damage than what you can actually calculate based on what gifted chromes are supposed to do on your weapons. They act perfectly fine when you use one buff, but as soon as you start intermixing and using two buffs, it becomes really horrible. So I don't know if you've watched through some of my pipe gifting setups and scenarios. Typically when I'm running the pipe gifted, I only use Bridge to Glory, and I don't use any other like Flashing Fang or Overdrive or Offensive Order or Adrenaline or anything like that, because it kind of screws up the engine in the background somehow, and it actually yields less value than what you would if you just use one buff at a time. So keep that in mind. Gifting your weapons is completely different. It is a huge different way to go about thinking about your weaponry. So we're not going to get into that here. We're going to do just the regular straightforward weapons and how you would use them. So then outside of all of this entire crazy multiplier set here, what you have is, I think I'm missing a parenthesis here. Yeah. Yeah, here to here. Oops, yep, that's the one we're missing. Okay, so then all of this entire everything here is multiplied by Swift Destruction, which is a 1 times multiplier or a 1.1 multiplier for normal mobility, and a 1.2 multiplier for quick mobility. And then Opportunism is a 1.25 multiplier, a 25% increase multiplier, that only is applicable if your enemy has a status effect on them, like poison or stun or something like that. So keep that in mind, that if you're going for poison or inhibit or slow or something like that, or stun on a boss, you can get superior damage out of Opportunism if you are using like a one-handed sword or something like that to go about slapping bosses quickly. So that's good to know. Okay, so yeah, we made it through here. Finding the parentheses and getting them in the correct place is usually pretty tough. Here there's 2. Am I missing one here? No, I'm not missing one there. That's good. Okay, and then here, yep. Okay, good. We're moving right along. Okay, and then we take all of that and we multiply it by the enemy's resistances. And so the resistance formula then is 1 minus the enemy resistance, and then you have a special interaction with Reaper, Merciless Reaper, which we'll get to later, and then you multiply everything there that you have by the enemy element resistances, and this is where your element buffs drop in, and they are additive. All your element buffs are additive, but you have to be careful mixing elements, because then it will proc enemy element resistances being subtractions here. So let's say you have an enemy with a 40% element resistance and another 40% element resistance, right? And you have 2 element buffs that you want to mix, so you're already minusing 80% of your damage, and so you can have 1 minus 0.8, so then that would leave you with 0.2, and then if you add 2 weapon buffs on there, that would be plus 0.4, so you would be at 60% of your overall damage. So your elements can actually ruin this entire bracket here. So unless you're going for 0 or minus enemy element resistances, I would not go for elements unless you know exactly specifically what you're what you're doing with them, because otherwise you can, because it's outside of the double parenthesis here and outside the bracket, you can absolutely ruin the entire setup that you're going for. So be careful with that. And then all of this is multiplied by your weapon attack modifier, or the gift modifier value from like an active gift, like steadfast strike or something like that. Every weapon has a on the first strike or second strike or third strike or fourth strike, they all have a weapon attack modifier, and you can find those out at the speed bag at home base as well, and you can mess around with those. I have an entire spreadsheet of them. Let me see if I can switch windows here. I think I have to do this and then switch to Excel. There we go. I think you guys can see that now, and you can see here for the let's see, which one are we using? We're using the Azure Greatsword, and you can see on the first strike with the weapon, it has 100% multiplier, so whatever's on the card, and then with Swift Destruction and all that, you'll be able to find out exactly what damage values you're using. And you can see all the modifiers here, and those are for every weapon class here. You have different modifiers on the first strike, and those are important to know, so that way you can get the most out of whatever kind of attack you're going for. Okay, so I can go back to the master equation here. Okay, and we will move then down into what these things mean. So the multipliers are for the physical, it's just the card face value. Whatever you see on the card, that is what the physical damage is. It's even listed and it tells you that it's physical. For the scaling stats, it's typically between 2 and 3.5% or so. These don't have any effect on gifting weapons, and so you don't have to worry about it. But for typical increases, it's around 2.5 to 3% is kind of a safe range you can kind of think about. But it is blood code and weapon dependent, very, very, very much. Not all blood codes at strength S are equal. I'll show you that here in a second as well. And so it's really important to understand which blood code you're using and how they scale with those respective stat requirements and such. Your gift masteries are, or sorry, your weapon masteries are a multiplier of 1.2. So here in the equation here at mastery, you would just drop in a 1.2 here. And adrenaline, this is a 10% increase, but since of where it's at in the equation, it's a 0.1. Flashing Fang is a doubling, so it's a simple 1. So here at this point, if you're using Flashing Fang, you just drop a 1 into this position. Overdrive, we discussed, that's a 25% increase, so it's a 0.25. Offensive Order is a 20% increase, so it's 0.2, but again, these all add together with Louis' Overdrive as well. Reckless Abandon, this is a 1.5. Fatal Surge, this is a 2, and you can just drop these into either one of these. This entire parenthesis here for this fraction means that it's just one or the other. You don't actually do both there to divide them, because you can only have one partner at a time for the base game, regular game, no modding. Then Final Journey, we have our strange value here of 1.5008, and you'll see later on that's important. Bridge to Glory, it's the light value times half gets added to your weapon value. And it's additive, as we saw in that giant braces where you have all those additive gifts. Then we have the gifted version of Bridge to Glory. If you have if you're using like a gifted pipe or something, you get 3/4 of your light value, so you can get some serious light damage added onto your weapon. Survival Instinct, this adds 250, but again, remember, it adds 200 to your light value, and 250 to the weapon value. So if you're using Bridge to Glory, you get a nice 350 out of Survival Instinct added to your weapon value. Now, as you get into these extremely high multipliers, you can see that Blow of Madness adds 400, and if Survival Instinct is only adding 350 to your weapon damage, You know, is that really worth taking up an entire slot where you could have something, you know, that's a much better increase, like something that could be like around a 3% increase. You know, 3% of uh, like 10,000 is, oops, you know, 300 damage right there. So it really depends, but if you're getting up into the 90,000s and stuff, or 40,000s and things like that, you can start adding like 1200 damage, and so survival instinct kind of drops off pretty quick. So be careful about using survival instinct because it's only 350 additive at most, And then Sacrificial Edge, you can see here that it's 800, and again, these are all the additive ones in between the braces here, right here. So be careful using those. Bridge to Glory is kind of a no-brainer usually when you're going for physical damage, because it's very, very high sustained damage. But the others, Blow of Madness, Survival Instinct, and Sacrificial Edge, be careful going for those because they may or may not be higher than other gifts that you could be adding on. So again, Swift Destruction, this is mobility based. It has no effect with Louis' Reckless Abandon quickness on his speed. That just changes you into a very fast dodge. It does not change your mobility, so be careful with that as well. Opportunism, it's a 25% multiplier outside of the entire parenthesis, as we saw, so it's very, 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 very important that if you can go for Opportunism, I highly recommend it. Now, I didn't go for Blade Dance or Eternal Blade Dance because that is very, 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 very unique to Prometheus, and it didn't really have a place, but it is a 5% multiplier added to your weapon damage, and it's only from your base, and it's something that would go in here with the physical base. So it's a pretty good multiplier. But it's kind of a one-off, one-time, one place kind of a thing. And it's not very exceptional, except for some of those really, really crazy setups where you go for the Queen's Knight Reborn or something and stun him and just burn him down very, very fast. Okay, and then enemy resistances, these are variables, so you can go see the boss listing on the channel here. You can see the mini boss listing as well, and all the analyses for those, and just read the descriptions for whichever resistance you're trying to go for. So Merciless Reaper, this is a 4 times multiplier if the resistance is negative. So it would go something like this: 1 plus the resistance of the enemy times 4, and that would be a multiplier that would then go right here outside of even Swift Destruction. So it would be incredible here that you can get this huge multiplier going, and then you multiply by the negative value damage increase from Merciless Reaper. So you can get some crazy multiplier values from Merciless Reaper. So keep that in mind. Otherwise, if it's just a regular resistance, it goes like this: 1 minus the resistance of the enemy plus the resistance times 0.75. So you get 3/4 of it refunded to you. And so somebody with let's see, a 85% so somebody with a 15% resistance to a certain value, that would get you 1 minus 0.15 plus 0.15 times 0.75, and that gets you to 96.25 of the actual damage. So you're only losing 3.75% of your damage. So that's how Merciless Reaper can really help, but it's only for the next attack, physical attack, and since we're going for physical attacks here, that's all we're talking about. Element weapon buffs, these don't change with gifting or enemy or anything, and they are all 20% increases, and they are all additive in this element buffs region right here. So keep that in mind. Then where are we? Element focus buffs, so like blood buff or ice buff, they are 10% increases, and they also add to your element positions in that same element resistance position in the equation there. Enemy element resistances, these are variable. Again, go see the boss listings, and you can plug those in here at element resistances. Just make them decimals, and you'll be good to go. Then the attack modifier, those are all variable. As you saw from the spreadsheet, there's a lot of them, so you got to make sure whatever you're using there, and that or the weapon gift modifier goes in this position right here. So that's how the equation works. Now if we look at an example for Oliver for lightning slash, his slash resist is 0, his lightning resist is 0 in phase 1, and that's all we care about. And if we're going to run warrior with a light value of 1201, then it goes something like this: the physical value on the card times 1.2 for the two-handed sword mastery for the Azure greatsword that we have, and we're going to add in overdrive, adrenaline. We're going to add in flashing fang. We're going to add in overdrive. We're not going to have a partner. We're going to have a light value of 1201, as you see here. I guess I can do this so it's a little bit cleaner there. And then we get half of that, so we get 600 added to our damage here, which is really, really nice. Then we multiply by our element values, which is 1 plus 0.2 since we're using lightning, and then we multiply by 5 for steadfast strike, and that comes out to 22,500 damage. So let's go ahead and see what that looks like in practice here. Since we're not having a partner or anything, you can see exactly what's going on. So we're at 1,000, and if we add the gift mastery here, or the two-handed sword mastery, we get 20% increase, and that's very clear there that that's 20%. And if we go ahead and get all of our gifts going here, now before the 5 times multiplier, we should be at 3,750 with the 1.2 times multiplier on our lightning, which would bring us up to 4,500. But because you won't actually see the 4,500 damage value on the card because of lightning, you'll have to multiply the 3,750 by 1.2 to get the 4,500, which then gets you times 5 from steadfast strike to get the 22,500. So you can see there that the first strike is a 100% multiplier, which is great. So if we get everything up and running here, you can see that value that we've been harping on, and you can see the equation in real time here, just how fast everything kind of stacks up. Okay, and now we are at 3750 here on the Azure Greatsword, 3750, and we have no lightning here. And then as soon as we do this, you'll notice that we will have lightning there, and it's just shows up as 50, but it's a 20% increase. And then if we go for steadfast strike, 22,505. So again, the rounding errors of Vane there, it's kind of weird that we calculated 22,500 by the exact numbers, and then Code Vane comes and says, never mind, you're not doing it correctly. You need to do this rounding error, and then it comes back with such a bad rounding error that you're actually 5 damage off of what you actually should be. So let's see this in action here against Oliver, just because of the fact that that's nice seeing it on the dummy bag, but does it actually translate to bosses and stuff? And this will give you a good rubric to make sure that how you're going about calculating for your for your boss fights and such, to make sure that you're getting the most damage possible out on the enemy. And you'll see here that since we don't have swift destruction or anything, we don't need to worry about any of our damage values from that. Okay, and can I hit him? There we go, 22,505, and you can see there that it works exactly as the equation and the calculation confirms. Okay, and then let's head back to home base here. Now if we go ahead and look at the I mentioned that not all blood codes are created equal in their scaling values or their use values from having strength of S here for the Azure Greatsword, so we're here at 1,000. And if we look at Hades, that's also at 1,000, so Hades and Warrior have the same exact strength scaling. But if we look at Queen's Claw, you'll notice that it's 991, so we're down about 10%. So it's not as strong, even though we are at a strength there of S. And if we go to something like Eos, we're down almost 15% here. So even though this has a strength of S, it's 15% worse than our actual Warrior or Hades blood code. Then we have Queen's Breath, which is 996, which is about 4 or 5% weaker than our Warrior blood code for the same S strength and everything. And you can see that we have 4 levels here of strength scaling just from the different blood codes in the game, and there's a 5th level, so I think it's like low, medium, high, good and perfect, or some weird scaling level like that. But there's the worst, which is blood codes like Eos, where they are meant for gifts, and they do not scale well on strengths. And then there's things like Queen's Claw, where it's a little bit better, but it's still in the bad regime there. And then we have the better version, which is only a little bit of reduction. And then we have the kind of normalized strength codes, and then there's the like bonus codes, I guess you could say, like Cert, where as you can see here that it's actually 2% higher than our Warrior blood code, or even Hades. It outclasses Hades there. And even though, again, we're still in that same S scaling for all the strength levels that we've seen here, so there's no difference in the strength value, but there is a very, very much strength difference between blood codes, and the same goes for Dex, Mind, Willpower, Vitality, Fortitude, blah blah blah. So they all have their strengths and weaknesses, even if they share the same letters. So don't be fooled by, oh, it's a constant letter, so therefore all blood codes and all weapons scale exactly the same. This is why the stat scaling is such a complicated and involved and convoluted piece of the equation. But since we know where to place it now, it's at the very, very, very beginning of all of your modifiers and values, then there's no reason to worry about it, unless you're really, really trying to get out all the crazy levels of damage possible. My keyboard just died, so I can't show you the Queenslayer build. Hello? Can I get my keyboard back? Maybe? Sometimes it does this, it just drops out. So anyways, the Queenslayer build that we're gonna go over here, if I can get my keyboard back, we will look here at how Queenslayer is gonna work out for us here. Come on. Ugh, this is so frustrating. Why does this have to happen now? Right in the middle of it. Oh man. It had to happen, didn't it? Can't even switch screens or anything. Okay. Man, that is really unfortunate that it had to happen right now. And I don't want to redo this. Ugh. Shoot. Okay, but anyways, you can see here that we're at 991, and Swift Destruction does not show up on the card here. For whatever reason, they decided in their best interest that that would not be good for people to see that 20%, 10%, or 0% increase to your damage. So you have to know that that multiplier is there in that way, in that position, doing what it's doing, so that way you have you actually have the damage that you need at a moment's notice. Well, maybe I have to get another keyboard, and this one's hooked. I hope not. I really like this keyboard. Maybe I have to blow in it. Oh man. Alright. Come on. There we go. It came back, yay. Okay, and so that's where we're gonna start to see some of this crazy increase here. And if we look at the 991 times 1.5008, so 1487, and if we use Bridge to Glory here, you'll notice that we're at 1487, so that's why we have to use that, because if we use it without the 008, as you get into the different multipliers here, you'll notice that it won't actually be accurate otherwise. And so if we look at the Oliver example here for the Queenslayer build that we have, if we use Reckless Abandon with Louis, you'll notice that we have 991 on the card. We're going to use a Flashing Fang. We're going to have Overdrive from ourselves. We're going to have Overdrive from Louis, hopefully if he uses it, if we're not in the mist. And then we have Reckless Abandon, which is a 1.5. We have Final Journey, which is 1.5008. We're going to have an 1837 light value, so we divide that by 2 with Bridge to Glory. We had 400 for Flashing Fang, and then we have a 1.2 for Swift Destruction, and then we have a 5 times multiplier for Steadfast Strike if we can land it. So you'll notice that the 1.2 here and the 1.2 here are exactly the same position, even though this was an element value and this was Swift Destruction. So we were able to have very, very similar close equations here for the damage values that we're putting out on the enemy. Now this is obviously doubling here because of Louis giving us this extra increase here of the 1.5 and the 0.25 from Overdrive and Reckless Abandon. So it's pretty cool that even though Swift Destruction is amazing, excuse me, you can use elements in their respective places if you know what you're looking for, and it can do exactly the same thing that Swift Destruction is doing for you, if not more, because you can stack multiple elements sometimes and get a 40% increase to your damage as opposed to just a 20% increase to your damage. So if you're running out of weapon slots and gift slots and things, sometimes it makes sense to go for Swift Destruction. Other times it makes sense to go for elements values. So you saw that this had a rounding error during the actual attack, and this added 5 more to it. So again, this is the value we're estimating here is 48,068. So let's go ahead and get into it here with Louis and see exactly what we hit when we strike Oliver with Steadfast Strike and Bridge to Glory and Final Journey and Reckless Abandon all running at the same time. Okay, we need Blood Sacrifice. We need to turn on Louis here. Louis? Sure. Okay, Louis, I won't. And it's important here that we get quick mobility, and you'll see on the card it says normal, and we absolutely need that to say quick. Even though we use Reckless Abandon, it won't do anything, so we need to make sure that the card actually says quick mobility. Okay, so good. We're getting everything going here, and you can see how fast these multipliers actually happen. And that's kind of why you know, it's hard to check when and where these multipliers are, because if you're doing it this way, they just kind of stack up so quick, and it's like which multiplier is which thing. Okay, and good. Louis gave us his Overdrive, so that's very, very good. And this here, this, and you can see here that it says quick on the card. So let's go. Now hopefully we can hit him before Louis does. So, oh, Louis hit him. So it said 49,501 because Louis slapped him with a little bit of a hit there. And let's see if we can go again here and actually get that value, because it's important to actually see if you're right on or close enough on your calculations. Okay, but at least this is a really, really good blueprint for you guys if you're trying to go for min-maxing and trying to find positions of where multipliers are and such. It's a really good opportunity for you to learn a little bit if you want to, or just ignore it altogether if you want to, which is nice. Come on, there we go. Okay, Louis gave us his overdrive, and let's go. Okay, and there we go, 48,085. And what were we estimating? 48,068. So you can see that as the multipliers stack up and different things, the values kind of can be skewed at different times just because of the rounding errors, again in vain. But we were 4,085 and 68. We were 17 damage off of the exact perfect value, but that's again because, like I said, Code Vein has that rounding error, and it does take into account the entire decimal string out to 10,000 decimals or whatever, and then it truncates and rounds at weird, strange, different times. So yeah, that's how all of these multipliers and everything actually stack up. And if we want to see where what is this? Blade Dance comes into effect. And you can see here, this is equivalency of 991 to Queenslayer. So it's one of the worst, one of the more bad blood codes for strength. Okay, and here we'll go for Adrenaline and Blade Dance and Overdrive. These are the ones that you can check very easily what's going on, and here again you get 20% increase, so we'll stick with this. Okay, and we're at 991, and this doesn't do anything until we actually slap the guy here. So then it will increase 5% there. So and you'll see that it starts adding up on the card here. So there's another 5%, another 5%, and this also has really bad rounding errors built into it. So you got to be careful with Blade Dance. So if we do this, so we're at 1091, and then if we do this, we'll be 1091, and then if we do it again, we're at 1145. Which where does that land? And so it's after the adrenaline increase, and if we go for the overdrive increase, you'll notice a little bit different here. So we are at 1239, and so there's 1239. Oops. Oh, I messed that up. Oops. But okay, so this and this. So there's 1239. Let it go away. Good. And there's 1289. So 1289 divided by 1239. So it added 60. Oh shoot. Okay, and what is our base value here? 991. So 991 times 1.25. Let me see. 1239, 1289, 1338. Yep. Okay, so where this guy lands in the equation is right here in the in this portion here. I guess I should put that here. Whoops. Oh, come on. There we go. No, I just wanna delete the, okay, I guess we'll put it up here. 1 plus Blade Dance. That's where Blade Dance goes. It's in the additive here, and it's a 5% addition to this set of parentheses right here. So good place for that. I guess we should put that here with Overdrive. blade dance is 5% increase per hit. And same with Eternal Blade Dance, it would go here as well. Yeah, okay, and so it's just you add 5.05 here every time, so that would be 0.05, and gifted it would be 0.075. But again, gifted is a different animal altogether. But this is where Blade Dance runs, and so if you have Opportunism with Blade Dance and Swift Destruction, and then with, let's see, Bridge to Glory and like Sacrificial Edge, obviously that's not possible, but that would be really good to have Bridge to Glory, Swift Destruction, Opportunism, Blade Dance, the Overdrive, Offensive Order, and Louis' Overdrive. You can get some really crazy values here, and again, you can't use all of these buffs, but that's where that's actually where they land in the different multipliers, in the different positions where they would be as compared to, you know, actually using them or not. So I think that's all the physical modifiers that we have, and kind of some examples of them, and how the entire equation goes. I think I'll put a link to this in the description so you guys can read over it and have access to it, or I'll just put this entire thing in the description, and you can just watch the video and see the multipliers in the description or something. I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to do it, so whatever's in the description, check that out, and you can actually see how this all goes. So the TLDR is, there's a big long equation here, and it is very involved and non-intuitive, but again, if you go for gifting, it screws it all up. So if you're going for gifting, you definitely need more time on your hands than what this video provides or affords. Again, I thank you all for watching. I hope this really helped kind of clear some of the air, and you can kind of find where some of the multipliers sit and how they actually operate and everything, so you can start to fill in the gaps as to where the positions of the multipliers actually land, so you know what's actually better to go for than other things. So anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this wasn't a waste of time for you. But if it was, I'm sorry, but this is what it is, and we'll see you guys. I don't know what's happening on the channel at the moment, whether we're in the road to 100 or other things, so this is just an upload since there was some interest in it, and so we'll move on from here. So we'll see you guys in whatever videos next.